Welcome to the Creative Condition podcast with me, Ben Talon, illustrator and creativity coach, founder of the Creative Condition, artist and writer. I bring 20 years of creative industry experience and a lifelong love of creativity, a fundamental pillar of human happiness, to you through ongoing personal exploration and the shared experiences of others. You'll get a nourishing mix of creative industry professionals and people far and wide using creativity in ways that can take our learning to the next level so we can maximise our unique blend. The show's been supported from day one by Illustration X, a tremendous illustration agency representing a shining global roster of illustrators and animators over at illustrationx.com. The music for the show is by Dirty Freud, who you can listen to now on all good streaming services. And for everything else, for my coaching, resources and inspiration, head to thecreativecondition.com. Today I'm going to be talking about the link between creativity and mental wellness. Is there any difference? I don't know. This has come from journaling through a period of anxiety that I've suffered in the last year or so, maybe even longer. But when I look back at a certain post, my list for things to help me stay well could just as easily been a list for healthy creativity. So I'm going to discuss that with you guys today. This is the Creative Condition. How are you doing, guys? I hope you're well. My name is Ben Talon. I'm the founder of the Creative Condition, artist, author, creativity coach. A few of the things which I won't ramble on about here today, but essentially living as my inner artist, and I want to help each and every one of you guys do the same. That's why this show exists. I want to elevate creativity's role in our society. That's why I started doing this work way back. I've been doing it all my life, but formally started as a Creative Condition podcast. Well, Rest All Mimics podcast back then for you OGs who might remember that one. Back in 2015. But it's been a lot longer than that. I've been doing work around mental health and the human condition and creativity a lot longer than that. And it's always fascinated me throughout my studies, through my childhood. Interested in storytelling. That's what I bracket myself as these days, a storyteller. My tools change from the ink pen through to the microphone, through to words, pictures. I love all of it. I love telling stories. I love helping other people tell theirs. That said, there is a brand new coaching offer. I am helping people to tell their stories. I've been writing biographies recently with Hector Ayuso, for one, who was the founder of Off Festival and has now founded Paradiso Festival, which is awesome, in Mexico, working with another designer. I can't tell you who it is at the moment to tell their story, but I'm also doing it through a distilled coaching offer. It's a 4-stage process where we will work together to write your life story, and then you can use it as a compass moving forward for your values, for your direction, for the decisions you make day to day. It's a very valuable process. Get in touch. I'm piloting sessions at the moment for half price. I've only got 4 of those available. After that, I'll be charging full price, but I love doing it. It's an incredibly intimate process, and I would love to work with some of you guys on that. Be you a founder, be you a CEO, be you a creative director, be you anything, to be honest. If you see value in that process, let's talk. And of course, the pit stop, the foundational coaching offer of the Creative Condition, where we go through everything in the makeup of your creativity, where you are, where you've been, your origin story, where you'd like to go, and we help get you aligned. All of that at thecreativecondition.com, and thank you to the founding sponsor of the show, Illustration X. But today, let's get into this topic. So, I had what I now have come to believe was anxiety disorder last year. Generalized anxiety disorder. That's when forgive me, I'm not qualified to talk about this, but my understanding of it is when you feel anxious a lot of the time and there's no real grounding for it. It's when your threat response is firing. When your amygdala is doing its job, that's the little almond-shaped part of the brain that is responsible for raising the alarm when you feel threatened. It does this unconsciously. You can't have dialogue with the amygdala. So if you're behaving differently or you are panicking about a certain thing, it will come to try to help you with that by activating your threat response. Now, for me, my threat response was activated a lot of the time, particularly upon waking in the morning. I would feel a sense of dread and doom and then plug things into that. Maybe that was kicked off through financial pressure. It certainly played a big role as a freelancer in a tumultuous economy and a changing creative industry. Bedtime, it would sometimes kick in and cost me any sleep that night. I had about 12 nights last year where I had zero sleep. That's eased somewhat in the last month, thank God, because it was horrific. It would leave you shattered for about 2 days, which then gives you less computing power, which only seems to create this spiral, this self-fulfilling point of anxiety. One of the ways I helped myself out of that situation was journaling. Now, there's a number of things, and I'm going to list some of them today because they've been really, really helpful. And I wrote about this on LinkedIn. If you follow me on LinkedIn and subscribe to the Creative Condition newsletter, then you will have already had the written form of this. Maybe I'll add the audio to that when this podcast's out. Journaling has been amazing. I've been kind of writing to myself in the third person, telling myself on a good day things that are helping, telling myself things on a bad day that will help, reckoning with my core beliefs, my purpose, my drive, my joy and my dismay and all of those things. But by getting it all down on paper and clearing it out of my head, it helps me to look myself in the mirror and get to a better place. Now, I know that I've really been upping the emphasis on mental health in recent times on this podcast. You might have noticed I've been doing specific episodes around specific topics with people who are better qualified than me to talk about them. I won't list them all here today, but that's been the case, and it's something I want to continue contributing towards. But also by using my own example and the things that I'm learning as I slowly get better, get back to my kind of old, more vibrant, optimistic self, which I'm so much closer to now than I was even December last year. It feels amazing. But I know that it can fold in on itself at any given moment if I allow myself to make the same mistakes and missteps I did last year. So through journaling, what I realised was I had this list, and I keep adding to this list, and it's things that are helping me through. But what I noticed was there was really no difference between this list and the problems that my clients as a creative coach face routinely and always have trouble with. This list essentially could have just been transplanted to what makes for healthy creativity. So mental well-being, healthy creativity. In my book, I would never separate the two. You guys will know by now that I'm a big believer in creativity as a fundamental part of the human condition. But seeing them listed like this and writing about why they're important, it's so funny how, just general mental health, but then also optimal creativity or healthy creativity. It's just, it's a part of who we are and what we do when we create, whether it's professionally, for pleasure, just in our lives. It is just so empowering for human beings. So there's no wonder to me that these two make up a very similar list. So I'm going to read that list to you and what I wrote about it, and I will elaborate a little bit on certain bits. So it was a Sunday afternoon, and I tracked back a few paces, the dog digging his heels into the pavement, resisting. I dropped his leash and he relaxed, eyeing me quizzically. This wasn't in the routine. Some kids on the street had been drawing on the pavement and left 2 half pieces of chunky orange chalk behind, and I couldn't walk away. I'd tried, but I just couldn't. I coloured in a solitary brick. I wasn't sure why, but as I walked away, I post-rationalised it. Maybe I just wanted to yank someone out of their thoughts. It was a vague idea I settled on. During a trying run of anxiety, I wouldn't have done that. Anxious people tend to say no to things and hide away from the world, from their joy and curiosity. To elaborate on that point there in the piece, I was so frequently in survival mode last year, feeling terrible, feeling really anxious deep down. And what I do when I'm in that state is basically pick the 3 big important things on any given day that I have to get done, and I work through them, often with great difficulty. Thankfully, I was always able to maintain, a good level of professionalism and do the job to the best of my ability, whether it was illustration, coaching a client. And don't get me wrong, I'd come up for air and on some days feel amazing, but it would always be tipped the other way on the back end of it. I would always crash back into anxiety somehow, and it didn't feel good. So in terms of doing fun experiments like that and just being playful in your day-to-day life, it's catch-22. You need to do more of that to feel better. But it's so hard to do that when you feel anxious because you just feel horrific, and fight, flight, freeze puts you in this very acute mode where you just see things through the lens of survival. Like you are in a terrified mode where your body is essentially preparing to die. That's what anxiety is at its worst. It's where I was at some of the time, quite a lot of the time in fact. So I wouldn't have done that. But on Sunday I did, because I've been working very hard for this list to get back to this good place, and there I was. On Sunday I felt good. Sleep has been better. Journaling is a wonderful tool, and perhaps, most importantly, I'm directing my attention to wonder and exploration again. Fewer psychology podcasts, which were vital in gaining an understanding of anxiety disorders, and more shows about creativity, sports, history, and the paranormal. So again, to jump in here, everything I was listening to was solution focused, which I've now come to realise triggers the amygdala, because it recognises the pattern change in your life and goes, oh my God, he's focusing so much time on this, on panic and anxiety. Fuck, it's a big threat. So you end up anxious because you're feeling anxious about being anxious. Do you see where this is going? Whereas actually, as I've learned through Joshua Fletcher, who runs the Panic Pod, which I recommend, it's fantastic if you're suffering anxiety, along with Disordered, his other podcast, which he co-hosts. I learned that the amygdala is kind of always watching for these pattern changes. So even though you're trying to do a service to yourself to get better, it notices that you are putting so much focus on this that it too must be alarmed about this, and therefore keep you in a highly sensitized state, which is, again, horrible. I returned to my journal as a way of cementing my core beliefs about many things, and in it I have a little list of the things that I needed to maintain to be well. Much of this list is covered in sessions with my coaching clients, creativity being a core part of the human condition, not an arbitrary task for designers and artists, shares a lot with wellness. Journaling, for example, is about self-awareness, taking the time to reflect and introspect, so often out of reach in the creative industry, thanks to the frenzied pace of things and the pressures in a changing economy, is essential if we're to be authors of our own lives. Without this, we become passengers. So journaling for me, again, it was a way of externalizing heavy, light, actionable thoughts, whatever the nature of those thoughts, externalizing them and sort of talking to myself through this journal to understand where my head was at, was not only a cathartic act in the sense that I was emptying my head, but it was also just helping me to understand what was in there and take some authorship over that. Talking about how I felt, what I wanted to feel, and how I could get there with trusted confidence and strangers alike helped massively. I believe creativity is a shared condition, contagious too, and the idealised individual is something of an illusion. Without input from others, no singular triumph or idea is possible. How those conversations take place must be determined according to the individual's personality and sensitivity, but happen they must. So talking was absolutely crucial. Some of my closest friendships became daily interactions where they would check in on me. I would just leave them voice notes to tell them how I was feeling, even if I knew they were busy and couldn't get back, because it was a way of kind of tracking and charting my progress. And they were absolutely amazing. I mean, to have friends that selfless to do that just created a warmth and a love between us, and it's deepened already incredibly deep friendships, which was a beautiful process. But equal to that, I would also be honest, not to the point of pinning a person against the wall on the dog walk and boring them with my stuff, because we're all going through stuff. But just when they said, how are you doing? I'd say, not too good actually. I didn't sleep last night. I'm feeling a bit wrung out. It's just, the world feels heavy. The weather's shit. And I'm just not feeling great today. How about you? And they'll be like, oh shit, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah, actually I don't feel great either. And here's my version of it. And we would walk around the field, me and a borderline stranger, with our dogs, and talk very openly, and both walk away from there with a deepened relationship, feeling amazing. And even if that person is only encountered by chance, because we'd always swap numbers with everyone on the dog walk, it's lovely to meet someone and be able to look them in the eye and go, how are you doing anyway? Did you get past that thing? And they go, yeah, actually feeling a little bit better, and here's what helped. It's amazing, and it's really, really important, because we are social creatures, whether we are introverted or extroverted. That should inform how we go about these things. That might not be comfortable for you to do, whereas it is for me. Your version of that might be going in a private forum somewhere and talking to other people, be that Reddit or wherever else. But I think by doing that in some way, shape or form, we give ourselves a huge fighting chance. And as far as those individual efforts, it's amazing when we have, designers, actors, musicians that we admire. But I can guarantee you that nothing they've ever achieved was done in isolation. It's always a product of being a part of humanity and the broader sphere and the observations of humanity, the interactions with humanity, doesn't happen in isolation, not for any of us. Recognizing the impermanence of things is veering into Buddhist territory, but it helped me to let go of some of my biggest fears around mortality. This anxiety was part of an actual midlife crisis, and other tormentors beyond my control. Creativity never stands still. So to accept that things are always falling apart and reforming and the cycle of life and death is really important, I think. For me, as someone who has an existential brain who will wake up in the night freaking out about what happens after death, even though I could never know that, that's a real thing. And that, through the worst parts of this anxiety, it began to grip quite hard to the point where any moment of pleasure I had in my life, with my family, in work, would be smacked down by this following thought of, yeah, but you're going to be dead one day, and what does that mean? It's like, oh, fuck, that's not good. It's really not good. We all have existential thoughts, but if you can frame them with curiosity and wonder and accept that this is something that is a part of life, death is a part of life, then that helps. But the idea of impermanence, and studying Buddhism and things like that has also been a massive help, and it's helped me to make peace with the preciousness of this moment. So no matter with all that stuff, we can't resolve that. So what is best to do is to frame this moment as singular, fleeting, impermanent, and therefore absolutely precious, to give yourself to it 100%. Do not waste your time scrolling on phones and being distracted and in your head ruminating as best as you can. This is precious, and that is something that has helped me to see more colour in my life than maybe ever before, which is really interesting. I've gone from being absolutely freaked out about death to sort of having that in the back of my mind, but being able to then bracket that as, yeah, that makes this even more precious, because whatever is happening now is real to me and it's amazing, so let's have all of it. Shining is how I came to define my purpose and a way of being that is natural to me. Not the Stephen King variety, but being mindful of how I carry myself in the world and how it impacts others around me. I've come to believe that something as simple as smiling at a person in the street instead of staring at a small screen can be transformative in ways we'll never know. Society is divided, and connections of all kinds are sorely needed. Who knows where a person is going, whom they'll meet, what effect such a simple gesture might have on them, how they'll behave or feel. The ripple effect of all these things is unknowable, but to remind ourselves that possibilities are endless should be cause enough to act with presence and intention. It's easy to look at the big positive changes and feel we are irrelevant, but nobody is. This returned purpose and agency to my life and reconnected me with my mission to elevate creativity. To do this, people must establish a baseline of optimism, and that starts with tiny steps. So it's amazing when you sort of, we all fall into the trap, I think, sometimes of looking around and looking at the big ills in the world, be it like oppressive governments or climate crisis and, anything else that feels beyond our control. I bracket this as insurmountables when I'm working with my coaching clients, and I help them to find a way of framing the big things that trouble them in their lives, which they have no control over, in a way that they can take some agency and can take some ownership, which is kind of a foundational principle of Stoicism. Check out Ryan Holiday's The Daily Stoic podcast for more on that, or his books. They're absolutely amazing. But really, it's about recognizing what we can do. When we can smile at a person, we can hold a door open for somebody, we can give a bit of change to a person who is homeless and worse off than we are. We could donate to a charity, we could help an injured animal. There's so many acts that we can take that give us purpose. And for me, shining is how I term it, because I'm a smiler, I'm a laugher. I always have been. Anyone who knows me will know that when I'm laughing and I'm thinking of silly ideas and I'm creating, that's when I'm at my best. And that's what I was detached from for too long. So if I'm shining, if I'm invigorated by the things I'm learning about, my curiosity, and I'm feeling empowered creatively, I will champion that in others. I do that in my job as a coach. I absolutely love to do it. It brings me the most fulfillment that I have in my career. When I see a victory for one of my coaching clients, when I see them take a step towards where they need to be. And it also gives me great hope, because I know that ripple effect can be infinite. It's that idea that one person can change the world. One person has changed the world on many, many occasions. So we have to remember that doesn't have to be grandiose and massive. That can start with a tiny action, and there's great joy in not being able to know where that goes, but knowing that it is absolutely possible, that it will change something positive in the world. So we have to fight for that, and it's been a great help for me. Resting and slowing down is a hard habit to establish in today's world. It is fundamental to well-being and effective, conscious creativity. Yet, it is a key challenge for every artist, designer, illustrator, writer, musician, and photographer that I've coached. Since forcing myself to do so more, my stress cup has been less full. Don't really need to elaborate on that one too much, do I? But idling, resting, pacing our days, it just helps with the mental load that we carry in today's world, and it helps us to stay clear and energized and connected with our creativity. Organisation can also act as a sibling to rest and slowing down. I'm not the best here, but the rudimentary steps I've taken to improve mine has paid off massively in terms of headspace and the quality of my thoughts and my work. Simple joy is something I neglected in the worst times with heightened anxiety. The double-edged sword of my profession being part of my passion meant that even things I did enjoy were still filtered through some kind of work-related lens. Failing to seek unconditional pleasures, whatever they might look like for each of us, is damaging to creativity. Joy brings colour to our days and offsets the weight of adult life. In childhood, it was a driver of pure creativity. We'll see the world with more colour and possibility this way, waking up and going to bed thinking the right kinds of thoughts. So, just recently, there's like a burst basketball on the little basketball court where I walk the dog and take the kids to play. And we were just picking it up, throwing it around, trying to shoot hoops, and simple pleasures like that, and actually owning that moment and not letting my thoughts run elsewhere while I'm doing it are massive. Playing with Lego with my little boy over the weekend. For the first time in a while, I was able to stop all the rumination and everything that goes on around it and just give myself to the creativity of making a story with him, helping him to learn how to tell a story with his figures and come up with what's the opening problem, why are all these little Spider-Man Legos and whoever else he had there, Batman, what's the issue, what are we trying to tackle here? And his imagination's going, and it's just a pure joy. And I was able to be in that moment, and it didn't have to be anything else. It didn't have to be something to come and write about on LinkedIn. It didn't have to be a way to consider creativity. No, this was just an act of pleasure in and of for itself. And it's beautiful, and we have to do that. So this is by no means an extensive list, guys, but I hope it does give you a sense of the inseparable nature of creativity and well-being, because it's been so helpful for me. I recommend journaling to anyone, just chatting your thoughts, emptying your head, working on yourself. It's so worth it if it helps you get to a better place. So there you go. Check out everything else for The Creative Condition at thecreativecondition.com, where you can listen to the weekly podcast or on your chosen platform, Spotify, Apple Podcasts and all that. Please consider a rating or a review. Even better, a subscription or telling a friend really helps the show. I'm trying to grow it. I'm trying to push hard on this mission of mine to elevate creativity in our society and for all of you guys. If you want to work one-to-one with me through the coaching, I have pit stop bookings available in February and full up in January at the moment. I have my brand new storytelling coaching offer for founders, CEOs, creative directors and whoever else. I will literally write your life story with you. We will negotiate it. We will get you to a place where you have it as a compass moving forward for your values and purpose and drive and decision making, and it's a really valuable tool. If you want to go one step further and write your story, write your book, I offer that too. So get in touch, ben@bentalon.com, or DM me on LinkedIn. Either or is fine. Cheers for listening, guys. Big thank you to the founding sponsor of the show, illustrationx.com. Please also consider supporting the Ukrainian Institute. They're over at ua.org.ui. Brilliant organisation supporting an embattled creative community in Ukraine at a horrific time of war. That's it for me, guys. Get out there, get shining. Remember, stay well. See you later.